Hi there. Okay, so we're ready to go ahead and add our access to the database and return real data. So we're going to start by creating a new folder. And I'm going to call this folder Data Layer Classes. So this is going to be some classes that we write to access the database. You can think of this as a persistence layer, or you may call it something else. I'm going to add one class in there called Data Layer. So down here, we'll just change the name to Data Layer. And this is going to be a class. It's going to be a little helper class to access the database. Alrighty. So the first thing we want to do, what we're essentially going to do here is we're going to use the configuration that we set up before with the constructor injection. And if you'll remember, just to review real quick, in startup.cs we configured adding the singleton of the configuration. The configuration reads whatever's in this JSON file, appsettings.json, and it has a connection string in there called localDB. And this includes the user ID and password. That wasn't in there last time, but I've added that since. And so you'll get that from the Azure database. We're going to connect directly to that database. So the whole point of this is we want to be able to configure the database in one place in a secure way. And we're going to start by adding a few namespaces. One is going to be system data SQL client. And the other one is going to be, in order for us to access the configuration, there's an extension out there for the configuration. We're going to use that. We also want to use the model that we've already created because we're going to return data in that format so that it's all ready to go. All right, so we're going to create our our class, and we'll start by just having a SQL connection that is accessible to the entire class. So we'll have a private data member called connection. And then we are going to create our constructor. And in our constructor, we're going to take the configuration that's passed into us. And you might wonder where that came from. And I'll show that to you here in just 1 second. So this is going to be a configuration. Configuration actually. So remember that over here in our controller, we get this configuration, and we showed that this was actually working by making this call. We're going to replace this code here in just a minute, but we have the configuration stored here, and we can pass that in when we create an instance of this class or create an object of this class. Okay. So if we grab the connection string, that's going to be in the configuration. And the way we access this is just like we did it in the other code that we just looked at. Get connection string, and we give it the key of the connection string, which is localDB, or the name. And then what we'll do is create a new SQL connection based on this. And we'll just pass in the connection string. Pretty easy. Okay, so that sets up this connection so that it's anytime we create an instance of this class, we'll have our database connection, and it's going to be set up based on the configuration that's in the app settings.json file, which makes this really easy. So the first method we're going to write is a get address labels method. So this will go and get all of our address labels. So it's going to return an enumerable based on address label. And we'll just call it get address label. And we're going to pass in an ID. Now, initially what we'll do here is just show you how to get all of the data back for everything, but we eventually want to have our get verb have an ID parameter so that we can get a specific address. Okay. So we'll just get a list of address labels declared locally. And that'll just be a new list of address labels. Okay. And eventually we are going to return this list. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So then in here we need to fill in the code that we're going to use. We're going to need a SQL command. Now remember, we've already created the view in SQL Server on Azure. We have this view out here called Sales LTV Address Labels. That's the view we're going to use. So we'll set up a command, a SQL command, and we'll do a little bit of magic number stuff here, which is not the best practice, but just in the interest of getting things working to start with, we'll start here. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to check to see if the ID has a value. If it does, if it's 0, then the command is really easy. We're just going to say, it's going to be a new SQL command, and what we're going to say is select star from sales LTV address labels. Just get all the data back. And if it has an ID, if the ID has a value, then we're going to change that query just slightly. And what we would do is say where customer ID is equal to, and then we would just append the ID that was passed into this method. Okay. And it also wants, actually we don't need the toString on there. It also wants the connection that we're using. And it wants that on both of these. So we also need to provide the database connection that we're going to issue this command on. And we've already configured that. All right, so now we've got our command set up. Now we need to go and actually execute the command. So we will open the database connection. Simple connection.open. We will then use a reader to spin through and get the data. Now there's some more optimal ways we can use to get the data. Again, this is a simplistic example. So we'll use execute reader here. And we'll just simply say while reader read. So as long as we have data to read, we will do this. We'll create an address label. local variable. So this is from our model. And we know that we have to pass into it on construction. If we remember over here on the address label, we have a constructor that will take all the values. Okay, so that's what we're going to fill in here. We're going to use that constructor to our advantage. And we will start so we are right here, and it wants so the first thing we're going to do is grab the customer ID, and that is in reader. Now these column names or these field names are coming from the database. So whatever you used, for example, you could have an alias on these. So let's just go look again. So it's these column names right here that are coming back, or these column names here. So we're going to go through and do every one of these that we need to create a new address object, and then we're going to add that address object to our list, and then we just return the list. It's very easy at that point. So the hardest part is going to be typing all this out and getting it right. So okay, then it wants the title. Then it wants the first name. This is going to be a long line of code. Middle name. So there's nothing magic about these being positional or needing to be positional. And these need to have 2 strings on them. We want to convert them to strings. You get implicit casting that'll work for you. The language will automatically do it. With strongly typed languages like C#, it's a good idea to be explicit in what you're doing. So last name. I missed. And then it wants a suffix. And then a company name. You can see we're naming your fields in your model the same as your database. You don't always want to do that because you really don't want people using your REST service or even code that's calling it to know the details of the database. For many years, we had developers having to know everything about the database, and we try to not have that happen. That gives us some abstraction, making it easier to make changes in the database that doesn't affect our code that calls it. So it's up to us then to write some abstraction layers like this. We'll take care of that. Right, and then let's do another address line. See, this is a really long line of code. We're in column 340 already. We're getting close to the end, however. And we'll know how well I typed here in just a moment. So again, you don't have to match all these names up. It is a bit of a convenience when you are working closely with the database like I am here. Certainly not necessary. You can name it whatever you'd like. I suspect I made a typo somewhere in here. We'll see. And then just one more. We're down to country region. So we'll know because the data will come back or won't come back. Actually, the reader will throw an error. Okay, so I have a typo right here. Okay, so we constructed a new address label. And we got an error here. Put parentheses. And then we're ready to move on. So we just take our list, address labels, add the address label we just got. And then we are, before we return the address labels, we are going to close our connection. So you might wonder, why not just leave the connection open? Well, remember that this stuff is supposed to happen quickly, get into the database, do what it needs, and then get out. Holding connections open may seem like a good idea. They can cause you a lot of problems to just try to hold connections open all the time. Also remember that we have a client making requests, so when that request comes in, we need to open the database, do the request, return the data, or close the connection, return the data. That's essentially what we're doing here. All right, we'll run this and see what happens. Except there's one important part we've missed, which is actually calling this code. So we need to do that first. And we have a build error. Parentheses around that. Okay, so let's fix this code here. So we're not gonna fake this anymore the way we were doing it. We're gonna delete all these lines of code. And we're gonna actually make a call to our class that we just made and get an object and get that data back from the object. So we're gonna do that by doing this. Data layer class, data layer, get an object equals a new data layer, and we're going to pass in the configuration. Now it is complaining loudly because it doesn't know what data layer is. So we're going to tell it to go, if this is a feature, so if you right click here and select quick actions and refactorings, have it include using core data layer. core REST server, data layer classes, and then it's happy. Okay. Now, all we have to return here is data layer. Get address label, passing in a 0 because we want all of the data back. So again, the way this works is if a 0 is passed in, it's going to get back, it's going to call the select star from the view. Otherwise, it's going to filter it. I'm just doing that to anticipate wanting to get the ID the other way, which we'll do here in just a moment. Okay, now let's run it and see. I haven't started Postman, so let's go do that while this is getting going. So Postman's starting up, and our server will start up. So we have a lot of things running here at the same time. Hope you're enjoying watching the videos. I hope they're useful for you. Hopefully you're able to follow along okay. Please post comments in YouTube if you have any questions or if you have ideas for other videos that you'd like to see. I want to encourage you to do that. I've done several videos based on requests that people have made on things that they're working on or interested in. And there's a few of those out there that I haven't responded to yet. I try to get at least a video done once a week. I am trying to get through a bit of the ASP.NET Core 2.0 stuff, as that is new. Okay, this is just starting up. So now when we call address labels locally, should get back a bunch of data. And as I suspected, it says it doesn't know what company name is. So let's stop this. Aha. There is no company name. So I don't know where I got that from. Let's go back over here and look at what we've got. So suffix Let's look at our view. Our view actually doesn't have company name in it. That's a problem. So we are going to do a drop and create. We really want the company name as part of the address, obviously. So let's go look at our tables that we have here. So that should come from customer. We have company name right after suffix, so I'm going to go ahead and add that in here. So what I'm doing is modifying the view so that it actually has that in it. So what I've done here is I've scripted a drop, and then it's going to go create it again using company name as one of the fields. I'll tell it to go do that. And now if we go do a view of select all the rows, you'll notice we're pulling back company name, so now we should be much happier. So we'll run it again. So we must have missed that adding company name as part of our view when we built it in the last video. Just wait for this to come up. Okay, we're up. Call Postman. And lo and behold, now we have all this wonderful data coming back, including company name. Now you can use that to go print your address labels. Let's make one quick change. And that is, let's go ahead and use this to get back specific items. And we will do that like this. We will return here the ID. Now this will be a little interesting because this is going to return a list of items. The list will only have one in it. So we'll see what happens here. Yeah, so it's not going to like this. So let's do this real quick. We'll get our list of labels. So we really should redo this call. I'm actually not going to do this. I think it'll lead us astray a little bit here. So we'll do another quick little video on this once we change this, okay? All right, so that's all we'll do. What I'll do is I'll do another example of this with get for specific IDs. So hopefully this was useful for you. Again, we've walked through how to call the database. We've also reviewed the view and made a correction in it. We've also looked at how we pass our configuration around. And we'll continue on with this example by filling in the get with a specific ID parameter. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like the videos if you like them, and please subscribe. That helps support us, both of those things. And again, please make comments in YouTube if you do have any questions for improvement. Thank you.